Hi everybody. I'm not really even sure what kind of video to call this. I guess you could call this a sort of a parts list kind of video for building a specific item. And that item has to do with this right here. It's known as the Bumpski by Fostech Outdoors, at least when it's on an AK. For the AR-15 version, they call it the DefendAR-15. I just like to use the term Bumpski. I know that's just technically the AK version. The AR version is called the DefendAR-15, but I just like to use the term Bumpski as a general term for this kind of item. I did a fair amount of research before I decided to actually pull the trigger on one of these because it is on the expensive side. It retails for $4.99, which is quite a bit of money. You can get it for a little bit cheaper than that. I didn't pay quite that much. You can get it for like 40 bucks or so, less, if you try hard enough. But you got to think about kind of what your intents and purposes are. You know, I'm mostly doing this for fun, of course. If you wanted to actually go ahead and get a real fully automatic M4, M16, whatever, you know, let's not, putting all the paperwork aside, good luck finding one. I mean, not good luck finding one, but coming up with the thousands of dollars, the $10,000–$15,000 that it's going to cost you. So when you think about 10,000 bucks versus 500 for, you know, something that you're going to put a lot of money in ammo into, you might as well just get this and buy ammo, essentially, because why even mess around? And, you know, who knows how long it'll be before Dianne Feinstein gets a bug up her ass and decides to make it illegal, although they've been out for a few years now and luckily haven't had any problems so far. But get them while they're hot, I suppose. I might as well open her up here. This is the kit that comes with everything you need. The nice thing about the actual Fostech Outdoors version is that it's made out of nice aluminum. Here's a little bag of parts it comes with. You need that for sure. Just slides on itself. Makes kind of a grindy noise. Here's the spacer. That's also aluminum. I think I'd probably put just a little dab of grease probably on each side, just so it's not quite so grindy, since it's aluminum on aluminum. But that's the stock itself. Here's the trigger guard part, the cheek rest. It's right here underneath it. I guess I'll take it out for fun here. Cheek riser. It's kind of a spacer for that. You got your grip, which I have a comment about, and then this is the part that would bolt on like so, and that's where you rest your finger. One downside, I thought it was going to be an upside with getting the more expensive aluminum you know, it's actually worth the money. It's something that actually belongs on a firearm instead of just a, you know, kind of plastic polymer hunk of crap. I was kind of hoping that I was going to be able to put any kind of grip, pistol grip that I wanted. In particular, I'm partial to Hogue grips, and I was planning on putting a Hogue grip on this. You can't do that. If you look, first of all, it's this part right here is too wide. So I thought, oh, no big deal, just Dremel out or something, the Hogue, make it fit, and I'll be good to go. That's not the case, can't do that either. The hole where you'd put the grip screw is also in a different place. So I think it's a little bit further back on this. On your regular AR grip, it's a little bit forward. But then, if it wasn't for those two things, then there's also this part that goes in like this. And so, here's your trigger guard. And because it's going to be moving like this, you can't just modify a grip, even if you wanted to put a hole in there for that. On the AK version, the Bumpski, I don't think it has this, so I think it's easier to change the grip on the Bumpski version. But on the DefendAR-15, changing the grip is really not an option. You're gonna have to use the grip that they supply. Be nice if Fostech, you know, it's not a bad grip. I guess I don't really have any complaints. I shouldn't complain before I actually use it. I'm just really partial to Hogue grips, and that's why I kind of wanted one, but not that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker by any means. So you got all these parts, all aluminum except for the grip, buffer tube aluminum. Everything is very high quality, comes with the extra parts, everything. So depending on your budget and what you want to do, this isn't really the kind of thing that I want to just have on my rifle and just have it on there all the time. I don't really want to do that. I want to be able to, you know, put it on a 22 upper, put it on this upper, whatever. And more importantly, because it's kind of a, you know, thing that's more for fun, it's not really something I would really want to leave on my go-to rifle, or home defense or whatever. You know, you don't want to have to explain to the jury why you had a frickin' Bumpski on your AR. You don't want to get into that, that's for sure. So I digress. Anyways, so my idea was, why not just build an entire lower customized for the DefendAR-15, or Bumpski as I just like to call it. In order to do that, you have to obviously come up with all the other parts, but it's really not that many, because this is easily the most expensive part. Once you got the kit, the Bumpski kit here, you got most of the expensive parts. So one thing you're going to need, the quote-unquote gun part, so you're going to need an AR-15 lower receiver, of course, stripped. And this is the lower that I did some color fill with the green. I did both sides. Not really planning on doing anything with the roll mark, but did the safety selector. It looks pretty good. Try and get a good shot of it here in the light, so everyone can see it, how it turned out. some gun oil in there, so it's a little bit oily right now, but I think it turned out pretty well. So depending on how much you can get a lower for, $100, whatever. One lower, not that expensive of a part. This is not the most expensive of assembling a lower. So after you got your actual lower, you only need a few basic parts. You're going to need a buffer spring, so your standard carbine length buffer spring. This is like $4. Not a whole lot of money we're talking here. Next, castle nut, also like $4. Not a massive purchase. Next, you're gonna want to go ahead and get a end plate for your stock. This holds in your detent spring for your takedown pin. I got a Vltor, not super expensive, but I already have one, so I know it's pretty high quality. Installs nice and easy. Just has a simple, single point sling or whatever you want. So a quality cheap part, not brink of the bank, but it is a part you do have to have. Next, you're going to need a buffer. I decided to experiment, and because with the Bumpski you're going to be dealing with some higher rates of fire, decided to get the Spikes Tactical T3 extra heavy buffer. I'll see how it actually shoots. If it doesn't shoot that great, I'll just take my T3 standard heavy buffer, see if that does any better. If I were to put, say, a 22 upper on this, this would probably definitely be too heavy. So then you'd want, maybe just your standard carbine weight buffer. But I kind of got this just for fun to experiment with different weights. So you can just get standard buffer, just the Spikes Tactical T2. That's a good buffer. I already have it. A lot of people like it. So when in doubt, just get the Spikes Tactical T2. But I got the T3 to try out. It is pretty heavy, and it is one solid piece in there. Next thing is you're obviously going to need a lower parts kit. You can get a lower parts kit without a trigger group and whatnot from Brownells and a few other places. Obviously you can't build a lower without a lower parts kit. So here it is. I just got a DPMS. Cost me $30 at Brownells. Even came with a pistol grip that I don't need. Came with the trigger guard that I don't need. But at least you can save a solid $30–35 by not having to get the trigger group. You might be asking, well, why would you not get the trigger group for the DefendAR-15 or Bumpski? Well, I decided to sort of go the extra mile, if you will, on this build. This is kind of a cherry on top, icing on the cake kind of thing. It makes it highly expensive and kind of overkill. But Fostech Outdoors does actually recommend having a lighter two-stage trigger to accompany the DefendAR-15. They actually have on the Fostech website, they just have the Rock River of 3.5 pound or whatever. It's like $100. I'm sure it's a fine trigger. I've never owned one. I'm partial to a certain kind of trigger. It's kind of elitist of me, I realize, considering that it is the most expensive trigger there is, but also a well-known name that a lot of people like and enjoy, and that would of course be pronounced properly Geissele trigger. This is SSA-E Super Semi-Auto Enhanced. This is to give a approximately 3.5 pound trigger pull. And since Fostech Outdoors themselves did recommend a 3.5 pound trigger, a light trigger, when you think about how a bump fire stock works, having a light trigger makes sense. So I went the extra mile and got the Super Semi-Auto Enhanced. So I'm guessing that this is going to make for a pretty spectacular bump fire stock. One thing that Geissele triggers are known for is they have excellent lock time, which means that the trigger locks or relocks after firing a round. Essentially, it's ready to fire. The lock time is shorter, so that means it's ready to fire sooner. So when it comes to a bump fire stock, having a fast lock time, being able to fire a round that much sooner because of a fast lock time just makes it all the better. Another nice thing is, like I was talking before, if I plan to, instead of just a regular upper, put a dedicated 22 upper. I have heard different things about using a 22 conversion kit in your regular 5.56 upper, and then using the Bumpski or the DefendAR-15, and it's iffy or not whether or not that's going to work. However, if you have a dedicated 22 upper, which is kind of what I would recommend anyways, because a dedicated 22 upper is going to be, rather than using a conversion kit, is going to be made to fire a 22 long rifle, so it's going to have a properly twisted barrel, not a twist for firing 55 or 72 or 77 or 62 grain, 5.56 223 bullet. So anyways, and then on top of it, because there's not a whole lot of recoil involved with shooting a 22, the lighter trigger is also more advantageous in that regard. So, unless I really forgot something, these are all the parts you need to build a very fancy, but I'm guessing very fun lower that you could put on a dedicated 22 upper and shoot very cheaply, or put on your regular 5.56 upper, and also have a whole lot of fun with that. As far as the price for all of this, retail MSRP for DefendAR-15 is $4.99, but you can get it for cheaper than that by $30-40. Good luck finding a Geissele trigger for any kind of discount whatsoever, because they just don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because everybody wants one. They don't put things on sale that everybody wants. So Super Semi-Auto is $210, and the SSA-E is $230. So $230 just for the trigger. You just spent almost $500 for the stock, $100 for the lower. A couple of piddly parts which are pretty cheap. Only next expensive thing would be the buffer, but you can just get a cheap buffer. You do not have to spend the extra money for something like this. If you just got a T2, those are pretty cheap. I think those are only like $25, so that's not really that expensive a part either. The Vltor plate is, I don't know, it was like 18, 22, something like that. $25 at the most, but I think it's probably like 22. And then your lower, which they're always about $100. You should be able to get a Spikes Tactical lower for a good price, about $90. Sometimes even 80 or 85. Use a really nice website to use is called Slick Guns. It'll do kind of so. It'll find some cheap parts for you to buy where the lowest prices are at. So anyways, I probably rambled on long enough about all of these parts, but you know, 500, 230, another 100, another 30, another 25, another 20, 10 for that stuff, plus shipping. Some you can get free shipping if you're spending a lot of money. The DefendAR-15 should definitely be free shipping since it's such an expensive item. But it will be a whole lot of fun. So I will definitely be making some future videos about this project, and I will definitely be making some actual action shooting videos with the end result of how this actually performs. So I hope people enjoyed the video. There's not really any kind of video like this that I've seen on YouTube. Everybody just kind of, there's not very many YouTube videos on the Bumpski or DefendAR-15 in general, but there's definitely none that kind of go put a fancy trigger in there. I'll at least shoot it. Whether I post it or not is how much feedback I get, but I will at least shoot the video of me assembling all of this. So if you're interested in what it takes to completely assemble this lower, just put it in the comments and I'll post it up. But this will be a lot of fun, and thanks for watching, and please subscribe.